Hello and welcome to the MAC weather page for this Wednesday, August 3rd, and we got some pretty nice summer weather coming up. We'll get a nice weekend with lower humidity and dew points and temperatures in the 80s with lots of sunshine. And then later on next week, we're going to really warm up again. I think we'll have a good chance of hitting 90 or better, maybe several days, possibly as early as Tuesday, but more likely Wednesday right on through into the weekend as we see a pretty hot dome of air try to move this way. Until then, our only chance of really getting much in the way of thunderstorm activity or rain would be for Thursday night after midnight into early Friday morning. Best chance would be early Friday morning. Not an ideal time for any strong activity. So when that front comes through, we expect it to be somewhat of a broken line of showers and thunder showers. So don't expect a lot of precipitation unless you get underneath a pretty good thunderstorm. Then you can get a lot in a hurry. But outside of that, it looks pretty dry until we get into about Tuesday or Wednesday when that next push of warm air comes in. But again, right now the weekend looks fantastic out there. So the headlines would be chances of a storm Thursday night, a great weekend, and then the heat returns later on next week. And I think we'll probably almost assuredly add to some 90-degree days, as will we over the next couple of days. Will be around 86 to 90 today, and I think around 90 Thursday. Tomorrow looks like the hottest day, and then well into the 80s on Friday as well. If we look at the normals for the day, our normal high is 82. The normal low is 58. Our record low here was 38 in 1893. Lansing had a record low in 1894 of 32 degrees, earliest recorded freezing date. Again, that occurred in Lansing in 1894. Rainfall 1.89 was a record back in 1975. And if we look at the weather map on that day back in 1975, we had a cold front that moved through the area later in the day, and that touched off some thunderstorms out ahead of it. And you can see some of the rainfall amounts. Grand Rapids recorded 1.48 inches here on the map, as you can see, and in Breckenridge we had 1.89 inches for the record there. Lesser amounts around the Midwest, but a pretty good cold front moved through the area and hit a lot of southwest and south central lower Michigan with some pretty good storms on that day. If we look at the more recent history as of yesterday, you can see temperatures mainly in the mid to upper 80s across the area, and only a couple hundredths or hundredth recorded precipitation around the Henderson-Lansing area as a little weak shower developed there and weakened as it moved off to the east. If we look at the current conditions around the MAC and LAC area, temperatures mainly in the mid to upper 60s, and again, heading for a pretty warm couple of days coming up. If we look at the Great Lakes, you can see temperatures in the 60s across much of the lower peninsula, 50s off to the north, and 70s creeping into parts of Wisconsin and Illinois. And you can see across the Midwest was a thunderstorm at St. Louis earlier, now a shower there, and some fog up around Wausau, as we certainly have some warm conditions back in the plains and the Corn Belt with temperatures in the 70s. If we look at the satellite view this morning, you can see a shower or a thunderstorm developed around the Green Bay area, and that'll weaken, but we can't rule out an isolated shower here today. Again, the best bet is that our chances of rain will hold off if we're going to get any until after midnight tomorrow, or tomorrow night. But again, I think chances are going to be about a 30, 40, maybe a 50% chance. But again, if you get under a thunderstorm, you can get a pretty good amount of rain in a hurry. If we look at the radar, you can see that thunderstorm around the Green Bay area here earlier this morning. And if we look at the damage, some of these storms came through out of South Dakota. This was in northeast South Dakota near Andover and Bristol. This particular farmer said that this is the second straight year in a row where he's lost this shed, and he lost a couple of sheds last year, so kind of interesting there. And you can see on the radar from Aberdeen, South Dakota, some of these very, very cold cloud tops. No doubt tops on these are about 55, 60,000 feet, as they recorded a minus 75 C right here in the heart of the storm. So very intense storms that rolled through that area here last night. If we look at the precipitation compared to normal, you can see, well, only a couple of days in August, so it's worse than it looks. But you can see overall for all the locations, we've got about 74, almost 75% of what we normally have so far for the growing season as of May 1st. Now I show the April amounts just to get an idea of how moist it was coming into the growing season. But you can see we had a nice July, fortunately, and that certainly alleviated to a little bit some of the moisture issues we were having after a terrible June. If we look at the forecast map for this morning, you can see their weather maker that'll be heading this way for Thursday night, producing those severe storms and locally heavy rains across the Dakotas into northwest Minnesota. And again, as this system moves to the northeast, it'll weaken across the Great Lakes. And you can see the area of severe storms expected tomorrow has shrunk quite a bit from what the yesterday forecast was for Thursday. But again, as that system moves to the east, we will have a chance of showers and a few thunderstorms as this cold front moves through on Friday morning. Again, not an ideal time to touch off rain and thunderstorms. And again, like we've talked about all year long, this is going to be one of those years where many of these systems that track off to our northwest, and our precipitation would have to be very reliant upon the unreliable cold fronts that move through the area. If we look at the precipitation from the WPC expected over the next 5 days, and let's shift this map over, sorry about that, see if we can get that a little bit better. You can see kind of interesting where the afternoon and evening storms develop pretty good amounts of rain, then they weaken as they head to the east, and then they redevelop later Thursday and Thursday night, and then they weaken when they come across the lower peninsula. It's all about timing of when that cold front comes through. And let's see, that's all we have. Thanks for stopping by and have yourself a great day, and 73s to all.